If you have dark circles and under eye hollows, you may wonder why concealer tutorials and routines that work so well for others don't work quite the same for you. People may ask you if you're feeling okay or if you're a little tired. You have to treat your under eye area a little bit differently when you have less fat there and the area is a little bit sunken. So I thought I would share some techniques that I do on a regular basis that help me because I know this is a big issue for a lot of you. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. So first things first, my lights are much more flattering to my under eye area than everyday natural lighting. So I inserted some clips that hopefully give you a better idea of what I deal with on a regular basis. You're probably also seeing a sheen under my eyes, which is from prepping my under eye. That's the very first thing you need to do, no matter what your skin type is, but especially if you have dry or mature under eyes. A nourishing eye cream that's especially formulated for the delicate under eye area. I'll have a link to some of my favorites down below. At the very least, a hydrating, nourishing moisturizer, and give it at least 5 to 10 minutes to sink in before you apply any makeup to your under eye area. This is probably the most important and the most skipped step if you have both discoloration and under eye hollows, and that is pinpointing a corrector directly where your discoloration is. And the reason why you want to use a corrector underneath your concealer is because correctors are designed to neutralize and counterbalance the tones of your discoloration before you conceal. It allows you to use much less concealer, so everything looks more natural and less cakey. If you don't use a corrector beforehand, sometimes your concealer can kind of have a gray cast to it because that discoloration kind of peeks through the concealer. Now, typically, if you have blue undertones to your discoloration, you want to use a peachy or orange tone corrector. If you have more purple undertones to your discoloration, you want to go for a corrector with yellow tones. That's the general rule. It doesn't always work that way. My under eye circles, for example, are a nice bruisey color, kind of a combo of purple and blue. I've tried yellow and it makes me look sick, even though you'd think it would probably work. I'm using one of my favorite correctors today. This is Bobbi Brown Stick Corrector in the shade Bisque. This is very creamy. It blends out beautifully, wears well under concealer, and looks very natural. It gives a very thin veil of coverage without looking or feeling like an extra layer of product, which is very, very important. You can use whatever product you want. I'll have some other options down below. If you want to check those out, they're all very creamy and hydrating. That's very important to me as someone with dry under eyes. Now, to pinpoint, you can use a very tiny brush or your finger. I typically do use the warmth of my finger to blend product out, but to be even more precise, a brush works just fine. This is an e.l.f. concealer brush that I use for this purpose and to spot conceal on my face. These are from a Beaky brush set available on Amazon at a very affordable price, and this is just a paintbrush that you can use for this same purpose. So I'm going to use the e.l.f. brush and just pick up some product on the brush, and I'm going to swipe it onto the back of my hand because I don't want to put too much product under my eyes. You want to place this where your specific discoloration is and not take it further down the way many people do concealer. Now, if your discoloration is only confined to right at the hollow of your tear trough, that's really the only place you need to place it. My discoloration does extend up to my lash line, so I am dabbing it up to that area. It's also important to address other areas of discoloration, like the outer corner and the inner corner, where a lot of us have darkness too. That only takes a few seconds, and we already have a big difference from one side to the other. I'm not sure what you can see under this lighting, so I'm grabbing a clip with my phone too. You can apply foundation before or after that corrector step, but you want to be sure to end that foundation below your tear trough, underneath your under eye hollows. Don't carry it up to your lash line. The less layers you have under your eye, the better. And we want everything to be very nourishing and hydrating so that everything looks nice and natural. So sometimes I do my foundation before this corrector step like I did today. I did it earlier and you can see there's none under my eye. And some days I'll do it after I do my corrector. It just depends on my mood, but I always do my foundation before concealer. And we're going to be dealing with two different concealers for this technique. For your main concealer, you want to choose a shade that's close to your natural skin tone or maybe a half a shade lighter. You don't want to go too bright here. And I personally enjoy a concealer that has medium to full or even full coverage, but that looks natural. This is Lancome Tint Idole Ultra Wear. The shade that I have is 215, and I place tiny dots along the perimeter of my under eye area. We're not swiping a bunch of this concealer under our eye the way we see. Blend out your concealer how you enjoy blending it out. I typically like to use the warmth of my fingers, but there are certain concealers that I enjoy blending out with a sponge or a brush. Play around, see what you're comfortable with and what works for you. I'm starting with the inner corner and just tapping it until it's blended in with my skin. And then I'm blending out the other areas, concentrating them most towards the perimeter. And you can see at the corner of my eye, I blend that concealer kind of out and up to detract, to highlight and enhance that area, to detract from the inner corner a bit. If I place more focus there, there's less focus at the inner darker hollow of my eye. It's all about illusion. Dark recedes, light projects. So then I blend out the inner portion and I don't extend much below the hollow of my eye, although I do try to blend that area just a little bit, just so there's not a line of demarcation. Now, if you don't have discoloration under your lash line, you may not need to take your concealer there at all. So this is where we are, and there's a big improvement here. This may be enough for many of you, but if you're still seeing a little bit of a dip here, a little bit of a shadow, this is where that second concealer can come in really handy. And you only need a teeny tiny bit if you need to do this at all. I'm going to take just a tiny dot at the darkest part of my hollow. This layering concealer should be just about a half a shade lighter to really pinpoint this troublesome dark area so that it brightens a little bit more without being overly obvious. It'll just create the illusion of a little bit of a lift so that it's more even with the lifted area that's right below it. You may need to play around a little bit to find a good layering concealer. Some concealers play well with others and some don't. So experiment, see what works for you. I'm using Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion Concealer in shade 1N, and I'm blending that out very gently, being super careful not to go below that ridge where the hollow stops, and that creates an illusion of lift. I'm going to show you on my phone what a difference that makes. Even though we've created a nice lift illusion here, the second the light reflects off the sheen under our eyes, it's going to negate that illusion. So I always set my under eye area with a very sheer, finely milled translucent powder. It doesn't dry my under eyes out. I'll put my top favorites down below along with everything else. This is my holy grail Pat McGrath under eye setting powder. I wear the lightest shade. These are my two favorite brushes to use. Both are from BK Beauty. This is the new Nikki LaRose in her set, and I'm going to use the 110. It's kind of a sponge brush hybrid, and I'm just softly pressing this along my under eye area. You can dust away any excess. You can also use a sponge if you prefer to use a sponge, damp or dry. And here we are, one side to another. And here's my makeup all finished. This is not camera makeup. This is makeup I'm actually going to wear. Our anatomy is what it is. We are still going to have under eye hollows and dark circles, but hopefully we can learn to work with them the best we can. I hope these tips and techniques helped you in some way. If you did find this video helpful, I would love it if you would give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it so much, and I'll see you at my next video. Bye.